Mom?
Mommy's with the maggots now.
The fifth film in the Evil Dead franchise, Evil Dead Rise, is a whole lot of twisted fun. Now the twist this time is that it's the mother who becomes possessed by demonic forces, and now her bloodlust is focused on killing her own children. So yes, it's twisted and dark, but a bloody good time for horror fans.
Just calling to say that I'm so excited to see you tomorrow. You're my angel and I love you.
Ari Aster's fans may be a bit disappointed by his new dark comedy, Beau is Afraid, because it's not another one of his creepy horror flicks. This is a 3-hour story about an anxiety-ridden man who's just trying to get to his mother's funeral. Everything that can go wrong does go wrong in this trippy but hit-and-miss film.
Stop the vehicle, Sergeant.
We don't want to go down this road.
You're out of your bounds, Ahmed. You're here to translate.
Actually, I'm here to interpret.
The Covenant is a serious Guy Ritchie movie about an American soldier going back for the Afghan translator who saved his life. It's got nice moments of drama and action with good performances and compelling themes of sacrifice and honor.
One day, the whole world will know me. And of course, the music will be spectacular.
Chevalier is a fascinating historical biopic about a mixed-race man in France in the 1700s. It's visually sumptuous, with a charismatic central performance that's focused on the man, his romantic exploits, and his passion for music.
The woman of my dreams is in London.
Cole, you should go over there.
What?
Yeah, show up and surprise her. It would be romantic gesture, something we can tell our grandchildren.
Mom, you can't be serious.
In Ghosted, a man decides to surprise the woman of his dreams, only to find out that she's a top-secret CIA agent. This is a romantic comedy set inside an action film. It has some good action and okay chemistry between Ana de Armas and Chris Evans. Not great, but it definitely has its moments of charm.
You know what your problem is? Is it that I've got a fatty deposit the size of a giant gourd on my back?
In Quasi, the Broken Lizard comedy troupe sets its sights on a Quasimodo comedy, except that there's not nearly enough comedy in this mediocre film from a comedy troupe that I generally love.
Put that guidebook away.
Why?
It's for tourists.
I'm a tourist.
No, you're a traveler.
Love is in the air in Vietnam when a woman dealing with a breakup decides to travel abroad and she falls in love with her tourist guide. A Tourist Guide to Love wasn't screened for critics, but this Rachel E. Cook romance gets credit for exotic locales and beautiful people.
Overnight, the censors came out of the woodwork.
Scores of young readers love Judy Blume for her young adult fiction. Judy Blume Forever is the very good documentary. It's about her career, her battles with the censors, and her impact on scores of young readers. It's very good.
I don't think that Judy Blume wrote her books to be timeless. I think she wrote her books to be timely. And they were so timely that they became timeless.
And that's what's new this weekend in the movies. I'm Sean McBride, the movie guy.
So he was on vacation last week, but he's here today to talk about some great movies since he's so rested and relaxed.
Actually, I was in New York, and in addition to seeing Broadway shows, I saw some of these movies last week.
So he's
too,
ready to go.
So I never quit. So, yeah.
Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah, this is the fifth film in the Evil Dead franchise. The first three, they're Sam Raimi movies. They were known for being kind of comic, camp type of movies, and they were a lot of fun. They were as funny as they were scary. The last one was more into a straightforward horror, but all of them have the same premise, the idea that there's this book of the dead, the Necronomicon, and if you read from it, then you're inviting demonic forces to take possession of your body, and then once that happens, the person who's possessed tries to kill everyone else. The twist this time around is that it's a mother who is possessed, and now she's going after her children. And that's an off-putting twist. I mean, the bond between mothers and their children are pretty sacrosanct. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but my mother's not trying to kill me, and it would tend to make me notice if she suddenly showed up and tried to kill me. So, hey, look, I think it works very well. It's campy horror, so it's not particularly, it's scary, but it's not so scary because it's not everything so completely serious. I like the visuals. I think the body horror aspect of it, where bodies get broken and skin gets ripped. I mean, I think that's done very well. I like the performances, both of the adults and the kids. I think the kids are pretty good too. So, if you like horror films, if you like the Evil Dead franchise, I think this is a pretty good option.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna watch that.
Okay,
if
you're
you were
okay.
scared,
You don't have to see
I
them
don't think
all.
I want to see. I like happy, bubbly stuff. So let's switch over to Guy Ritchie's The Covenant.
The Covenant. And this is interesting. When we say Guy Ritchie, a lot of people know this filmmaker as being the guy who makes action films, but with little gimmicks and whatnot. And I kind of wish they didn't put his name on the title. They did it because there's another movie called The Covenant. I understand why they did it. But this one doesn't have the gimmicks. It is a straightforward, an action film about a guy who, he has an interpreter with him in Afghanistan. He comes back to America and he realizes that his brother in arms, he was a soldier there, his brother in arms can't get out of country. And so he feels honor bound to go back and help this guy to get him out of there. It is a war film. It's got great action sequences, but it's really a film about a soldier, his honor, brotherhood, all those themes. I think this is quite a good little movie. And I wish it didn't say Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, because it doesn't feel like a Guy Ritchie film. It feels like a good action drama. I think it's a very good film.
You guys, I was still staring at the film. I was like, wow, it is a lot of action and drama in there. I didn't check that.
Also opening in theaters is Beau is Afraid. This is the latest film from Ari Aster, the guy behind Hereditary and Midsommar. This is a guy, he's a director. He's not made a lot of movies, but he has some very ardent fans. And they love his horror films. They're kind of creepy, thinking person's horror films. I love that. I think some of his fans may be a little disappointed this time around, though, because this is not a horror film. This is really a dark comedy. It's Joaquin Phoenix. He's a guy who's very anxious. He's trying to go on a trip, get up to his mom's. Patti LuPone plays his mom. That's kind of cool as well. But hey, look, he steps out of his doors, and everything that can go wrong does go wrong. It's very Kafka-esque in that it's an absurdist little dark comedy. I think it has a lot of interesting stuff there. I don't think it always works that well, but look, this is a long movie. It's not 3 hours, it's 2 hours and 59 minutes. So it's a long one, but I think it's worth seeing, particularly if you're a fan of Ari Aster. I think he's a very interesting filmmaker. Chevalier is a historical biopic about a guy who, quite frankly, I'd never heard of before. This is a man who is a mixed-race man living in the 1700s in France. And he shows up, and Marie Antoinette takes a liking to him. So he's got some aristocratic protections, and that kind of helps him be who he wants to be in Parisian society. He's known as being a lover and a fighter and a musician in particular. And this is one of those films that, it's just a big period drama, beautiful looking, architecture and costumes, and then it's kind of sudsy and romantic at times. And then also it's a biopic about this guy that I don't think many people have ever heard of. The mark of a really good biopic is whether it makes you come out of the movie going, oh, I need to read a book about that guy. And this one, I came out and I went to the Wikipedia page. He's an interesting guy. It wasn't enough to make me read the entire page, but it's interesting enough to make me at least want to get to know him more. And I think that's probably one of the best things you can say about a biopic.
Okay, let's move over to Ghosted.
Ghosted, this is on Apple TV+. There are 4 films on streaming. This is probably the biggest of the bunch here. Basically, it's got some great big movie stars in it. It's Chris Evans, it's Ana de Armas. They have a meet cute, and he thinks that she is the woman of his dreams, so she's in London, so he decides to fly over there and make a big romantic gesture, only to find out that she's a CIA spy. And as soon as he goes there, he gets caught up on people kidnapping him, thinking he's a spy too. And look, it's these two people. I think the action stuff is pretty good. I think the chemistry could be a little better. It's one of those Hollywood first rules of romance. The two hottest people on screen automatically have to fall in love, not because they have charisma, but because that's what the screenwriter did create.
They're fighting, though.
Yeah, exactly. The fighting's there. I think there's some really fun moments, comedy. There's a lot of really cool cameo performances. I think there's some really good stuff here on Apple TV+. Quasi over on home streaming. Honestly, this is probably the worst film of the bunch out this week. This is from the Broken Lizard comedy troupe. I generally tend to like their stuff. I didn't like this one much at all. Basically, the idea is it's Quasimodo, so it's I want to say it's like 13th century France. And they're going through, people are making fun of him. It's kind of a bro comedy. It's Quasi and his bros. But he wins a lottery, and he gets to confess his sins to the Pope as part of the lottery. And when he does, the Pope tells him that he wants him to kill the king. And before that, the king has already told him that he wants him to assassinate the Pope. So it's a kind of a court intrigue between the Pope and the king. I'm not sure I cared about any of that. There's also a romance, which is kind of interesting, between the Queen and Quasi. Sure, why not? Look, I don't think the story is particularly good, but a movie like this is really about the jokes. And that's the problem. I don't think the jokes are very good this time around. So, and it also, I should tell parents, it does have some close-ups of male genitalia, because that's funny, I guess. There's the problem. I just didn't think Quasi was very funny. You know, I like Broken Lizard, but I didn't like this one. A Tourist Guide to Love. It's Ritchie Cook. She plays a woman. Her boyfriend just has told her that he wants to go on a break, and so she's kind of distraught. And it turns out she works for a travel company, and they want to send like a, what do you call it, a secret shopper to Vietnam, and, you know, check out this tour guide company, see if they want to sign with them. So she goes, and it's the perfect escape for a woman who's just lost the love of her life. And of course, she's going to find new love of her life in Vietnam, particularly with the hunky tour guide who picks her up at the hotel. Look, I don't think there's really anything special going on here, but it is just it's a nice, solid romance. It's beautiful people in exotic locales, and the music swells as the emotion swells. It is exactly what you think it is. It's nothing that you're going to, you know, write home to mom about, but it's fine if you're just looking to get a little feels over the weekend. That's streaming over on Netflix.
All right, guys, or you can watch that at home. Let's move over to the next movie.
The final one let's talk about is Judy Blume Forever. You know, next week we have Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret on in movies. And so here's a documentary on Amazon, Judy Blume Forever. It's basically the story of this author. She, you know, obviously she writes primarily for younger girls, but she writes for adults and boys as well. But her books, have been banned repeatedly because she deals with issues of young childhood honestly. She talks about your changing bodies and all that stuff, right?
Maturity.
Yeah, and so I love it. She's kind of an outspoken, just kind of a cool little granny living in the Keys right now. But the reason I really like this film is because they tracked down a lot of the young readers who wrote to her, and she corresponded with a lot of these kids. She has boxes and boxes of correspondence of 12-year-old girls
like
that she would write to.
Almost?
Yeah, exactly. She would respond to them, and it's really quite sweet. You know, some of them are famous people, Lena Dunham, Molly Ringwald, but it's also some people that you've never heard of. They're just average folks who wrote to her because they connected with her through her books, and then they connected to her through her mail. So great stuff.
All right, Sean. Well, thank you so much, Sean. He joins us every Friday with the latest movies coming out on streaming platforms and in theaters. Thank you so much for watching. Please join us next week for News at Noon. Until then, have a great afternoon.